All right, let us open our Bible to Daniel chapter 2. Daniel chapter 2, and read a couple of verses, at least one. Well, let's at least read, verse 44. Daniel 2, verse 44. In these days of these kings shall the God of heaven set up a kingdom which shall never be destroyed. And the kingdom shall not be left to other people, but it shall break in pieces and consume all these kingdoms, and it shall stand forever. So if we have a question, what will happen to this beautiful Switzerland? Or if you have a question, what will happen to the United States? There you got the answer. Those of you who have hope in the United States, in Germany, in Russia, in Switzerland, in Bulgaria, in Brazil, doesn't matter where, you will be disappointed. This is the end. It will all be destroyed. Everything you see here, everything you experience here is only temporary. Everything you have and everything you are is temporary. But what is born within you, that is eternal. And that's the glorious message we have to proclaim. The center on the entire scripture is always concentrated towards Zion, Jerusalem, Israel. When we study the prophetic word, I think it's a mistake when we try to analyze sensational events that are happening just recently. Remember 1988? 88 reasons why the Lord should come, all such nonsense. Because we do our own mathematical calculation and think, oh, the Lord has to do it the way we think it should be. Or remember Y2K, the year 2000? The year 2000, I mean, we had just a handful of my colleagues who said, this is nonsense. Nothing going to happen. I think the Russians had the best idea. They were asked what they think about Y2K, and they said, well, in our computers we built, we have a button, and it says on and off. And they just turn it off and then reboot it and turn it on. And, I wrote the book, When Y2K Dies, and Dave Hunt and several others they wrote to, but it didn't make no difference. The masses of I call it churchianity, but even Bible-believing Christian swallowed this nonsense line, hook, and sinker. The tragedy as a result thereof is just terrible, because many, they lost faith in the Bible, they lost faith in the prophetic word, and they lost faith in the ministries. We cannot do that. We have to keep what is written in the Word of God, and no more and no less. I have here a voice from 1897. John Cox, he writes in, well, he didn't write it, but they republished, Watching and Waiting, comes out of London. Quote, prophecy must be read in its own light. It is folly to endeavor to interpret it by means of unreliable human history. To do so would be foolish, like taking a flashlight in order to see the sun in the noonday. He hit the nail on the head, because we can't try to do something that's inconceivable. You know, what is happening today is amazing. But the whole Gentile world does not have a future. We have no hope except him who is our peace. Otherwise we don't. I think there's so many good people, they're trying to change using political tools. It's very noble of you that you do that. But when I read my Bible, I notice that Jesus did not use political tools. The Apostle Peter used no political tools. The Apostle John used no political tools. Because we are building a kingdom that is invisible at this time, but will be manifested one day. And are you waiting for that day? Yeah, many of you, you are very close. Very close. You know, like I often say, when you're 40, you're over the hill. When you're 50, you know it. When 60, you feel it. When you're 70, you can't deny it anymore. And when you're 80, you start bragging about your age. You know how old I am? So let's make something very simple, very simple. And I'm going to talk about that in my 3 messages. But to divide the groups of people into 3. First of all, who's first? No, wrong. Gentiles. The Gentiles are older than the Jews. Abraham was a Gentile. He was worshiping pagan gods. So the Gentiles, the Jews, and the Christians. That's the 3 groups. That's it. Just ignore the rest of it. Are you either a Gentile, a Jew, or a Christian? And you're either, as far as your heritage is concerned, you're either a European, you're an African, or an Asian. That's it. It's simple. If you're black, you're an Asian. If you're brown, if you're black, you're an African, usually. And if you're brown, you're an Asian, or they call it yellow. I don't know why yellow. And if you're white, you're European. We as Christians should analyze it only from biblical faith, from the Church of Jesus Christ. We don't know each other. We may not know each other's language. As we have heard now the Hebrews, I call them the Shalom girls sing. What were they singing about? But they explained it before. And when Jonathan was talking about, he was talking German. Now, German is the real language. That's the heavenly language. Of course, I don't have to tell you that, right? Paul was, he wrote about hearing unspeakable sounds. Now you try to say 888 Streichholzschachtel. Can't say that. Well, we do know that Hebrew is, Jesus spoke from heaven when he met Paul or Saul at that time in the Hebrew language. So these 3, the Gentile world. The Gentiles is the whole world, all 200 plus nations. And to think that one nation is better than the other is ludicrous. You think the other nation has a different devil? You think the other nation has a different God of this world? You think the other nation has trillions and trillions upon demons who are guiding this country and any other country? No. Just as we who don't know each other all over the world constitute the Church of Jesus Christ. We are one body. We are perfect. I know there is much concern about what's happening in the Church of Jesus Christ or in the churches. But within the activity of the churches, Jesus is building his church. In India, in Africa, in Europe, in Asia, in the Americas, all over. He is building his church, regardless of our activity, regardless of our attempting to, and often we say, oh, we are going to reach the world with the gospel. No, you can't reach not even your own family. That's why we need to rely more on our Lord. And he is building his church, and that church is going to be completed. And when that church is completed, we will be raptured into his presence, and so shall we be forever with the Lord. Isn't that glorious? Amen. Wow. So Gentiles, the whole world. Jews, a chosen people for a specific purpose to what? Be the light of the Gentiles. Of course, you know that they failed, because they are also in the flesh. And then the last one is the church. I already mentioned it. We are an unidentified group of people. We do not have a headquarter. We do not have a telephone. We do not have a web address. We do not have nothing. But the church is growing all over the world. And I just talked to Jonathan and Norbert just a little while ago, and they tell us the tremendous things that are happening now in Syria and in Egypt. Muslims are coming to faith in Jesus Christ by the scores. God knows exactly what He is doing. They don't need our hate propaganda against the Islam and against. You can't reach anybody. He just talked. He was last year here. What was his name? Maurice, right? Elia Maurice, yeah. And he reported that he went to a church in Egypt where the Muslims had painted over on the church nasty words, graffiti. And the Christians, they repainted it, and they wrote on there, "We love you. We love you." And the Muslim could not understand. And scores of people are coming to Jesus. And all over Africa, all over Asia, Jesus is building His church. So don't be an enemy of any group, whether it is Islam or Buddhism or Hinduism, or as used to be popular, communism. Everybody was against communism. That was fashionable, although nobody knew what communism was. Only what our own propaganda machine created. That's what we thought it was. And now, of course, our only friend and our benevolent partner is communist China, who gives us trillions, just to prop up our government. So don't get involved in these things. We are the Church of Jesus Christ. In communist countries, in capitalist countries, in socialist countries, in dictatorships, under Islam, under Buddhism, you name it. So what is our purpose? We also are the light of the world. And light does not have to shout and say, "Hey, look, I am light." Light you can see. The more we are burned up from ourselves and we are empty of ourselves, the more Jesus Christ is coming through. And that's what the missionaries in those countries where there is Christian persecution, real Christian persecution, they are experiencing it. They practice the love of Jesus Christ in a very practical manner. That means you totally rely upon Jesus and you deny yourself and you follow Him. And you practice what is written in the Bible. For example, in Matthew 5. Love your enemies. Love your enemies. Well, if you love your enemies, what's happened? Instantaneously, you do not have any enemies at all. Isn't that wonderful? Yeah, well, the Trinity. To understand this very simple, the prophecy, you can think the Gentiles, the Jews, the Christians, just like the earth here. We have earth, we have water, and we have air. Otherwise, there would be no existence. Or we have these three continents that I already mentioned: Europe, Asia, Africa. And America and Australia became a continent that was conquered by Europeans and established European culture, conquered, still speaking European languages, having the European culture, and are built upon Roman laws, all in the world. Doesn't matter where you are. So, man too. What do we consist of? What do we consist of? We are a Trinity. Spirit, right, soul, and body. And the body has no future. The spirit does. But the body has no future. That's why the Bible tells us they are fighting one with another. It doesn't matter whether you you know, the doctor gave you, you have a surgery, or they gave you some medicine and you feel better. It's just temporary. You're going to die anyhow. How are you? Oh, I'm doing fine. Yeah, but it won't be long. That is normal. That's what doctors do, you know. All they do is they come in there and they give you the medicine, and then you take, oh, this is now this pill is for that, and that pill is for that pill is for that. I want to help you in the long run. You're going to lose that battle. I'm going to lose that battle. And that is a glorious thought. I think we should think on that. We are going home, and we're going to have an eternal address. We're going to have a mansion built in heaven. None of you lived in a mansion. It doesn't matter if you have a $10 million home. That's not matter. That's a little shack on the railroad track. This is going to be, and there's no more pain, no more suffering, utter indescribable glory. When we die, what will be fulfilled? Eye has not seen, nor ear hear it, nor has entered into the heart or the mind of man what God has prepared for them that love him. And then if God loved you, and you love God, and God says, for God so loved the world, then there should be no hate. There should be no hate. And that's something I have noticed in the many travels of Israel. There is virtually no hate that I have sensed in the land of Israel. And they have reason to hate. They have many reasons to hate. But they don't hate the Arabs. They are the only military force that tells you not to kill the enemy. That's the worst thing to do, unless you absolutely have to. So, and if you present that, if you analyze this, the Gentiles present or represent the body. The body has no future. Israel represents the soul. Israel is the recipient of the law. It's the soul that tells you what to do. It tells you in writing exactly how you can find God. And then the church is the spirit. Once we have been born again of his spirit, we are in glory forevermore, although we are suffering here while we are on earth. Like I have mentioned many times, the best thing to come is when you pass away. But we don't want that. But to get used to it is, I think it's an excellent idea. It's an excellent idea. Get used to it, because that's reality. No way around it. Doesn't matter how old you are or how young you are. Yeah, that's the other. And the body has no future, like the Apostle Peter says, you know, everything will be destroyed by fervent heat. Nothing will be left. Your flag and your national anthem and all that's all gone. Huh? You're not going to march into heaven with the American flag and, you know, you're marching to... No, you won't. No, you'll be ashamed of all that. I remember years ago we had published calendars and from Galilee Experience. And the publisher is a very good friend. And he published one and showed Armageddon, where all those marching, the nations were marching, you know, tanks and planes and people with guns and everything. And I looked at all the flags. And I said, hey, Eric, where's the American flag? We always think more of ourselves, huh? Everything else is wrong. Everybody else, but we are not. Yes, we are. And that's the danger here in the Church of America. We are too nationalistic. We think that we can do something better than Jesus Christ our Lord. We can't get in with our luggage into heaven. Just as we came, that's how we're going to go. And only that which is built spiritual will remain. The rest will be all burnt up. So we have already read what it says about it. So The body is the Gentiles, the whole world, no hope. The soul is Israel, and the spirit is the church of Jesus Christ. And God does it not by might, but by what? By spirit, saith the Lord. And that's where he is complete in everything. The question really I asked often, how can Satan deceive the whole world? How is that possible? I mean, the overwhelming majority, according to Scripture, will not accept the message that Jesus Christ is the Savior of the world, that Jesus Christ poured out his blood on Calvary's cross to pay for our sin nature. Not only our sins, but our sin nature. I am sin. What you see here, Arno, flesh and blood, this is sin, and you are too. You can't go to heaven. It doesn't matter how good you look, how great you are, how rich you are, how pretty you are, how ugly you are, how little you are, how tall you are. It makes no difference. It has no chance. Absolutely nothing. But how is he going to do that? He is doing that through deception. And he has actually done a marvelous job now the last 6,000 years. People ask me, yeah, well, you know, if they stop doing this and they stop doing this, you know, like the Islam or the communist or the insurgent or the terrorist now, they're just doing that which comes natural to the flesh. Very natural. Where does war begin? Why are we still killing one another? Because Cain killed his brother Abel. And from that point on, everybody kills each other. Wars and rumors of wars, Jesus said. And it's still happening today. But somehow the devil must be able, he must be capable to lead the world in such a fashion that they will forget the war and unite. And that's the greatest danger, because mankind believes today that they can create their own peace, their own prosperity, and their own security. They believe that more and more, and they're using technological means. I read an article by Ray Kurzweil, who is a futurist, and who says we could build a computer that would replace the emotion and the soul and the spirit of man. Can you imagine that? And he is an atheist. And he says what is required that everyone, every person on planet Earth, reveal all the truths about his or her life and feed that all into the computer. Then the computer will be capable of making the proper analysis. Everything. I mean, your hidden sins, you would not wish that it would be revealed right now. Would be shameful. You would be embarrassed to death. But everything should be put in there. And that reminds us exactly what's going to happen in Revelation. When Satan says, when the false prophet says, go and build a machine like that, an image of the beast. And the image could both speak and cause as many as would not worship the image of the beast would be killed. That means, in simple words, that a technological achievement will come so far that you can't hide anymore. And right now, we are in the process. I hear a lot of people saying that the times are getting bad and everything. I'm not quite in agreement with that. Times are getting better. We never had it so good. I know you may disagree, but when you come to think of it, of what's happened just, let's say, 150 years ago. 150 years ago, people were working 7 days a week, at least 6 days a week, 12 to 14 hours, just for one purpose, to put food on the table, clothes on the back, and roof over the head. And they didn't live very long. They didn't live very long. They were dying like flies. Today, today, well, we work 40 hours, we really brag, right? And we want our vacation. And we want our luxury. We want air conditioning. We want heat in the summer. We drive in cars. They're just absolutely fantastic. Now, what do you think 150 years ago, if someone was a royalty, let's say a king or a queen? Well, how could he go from Myrtle Beach to, let's say, to Columbia, South Carolina? I probably would have taken him 5-6 days. Sitting in the carriage behind a stinking horse, hot in the summer, ice cold in the winter, roads which didn't exist. Can you imagine we are sugar? I mean, you could have gone, what, maybe 20 miles a day? Today, you sit in your car, turn on the radio or turn on the CD, put your air conditioner on, speed control on. All you have to worry is that you don't go too fast so you don't get a ticket. Times are getting a lot better than we ever thought. What about communication? It was impossible for a king to talk to another royal family or somewhere else in another part of the world. The only way was to simply write a letter. That's it. Right? That's what I always tell you. People call, oh, somebody called you. I say, well, if it's important, they call again. And if they call again, well, tell them to write a letter. They're always on the telephone now. Everything has to communicate. Oh, yeah. What are you doing? Where are you going? I mean, the communication explosion is fantastic. I take advantage of it too, because when I go somewhere, and my wife calls, no, she never calls. Some of the boys calls, she don't know my number. Or she forgets it. They call and say, oh, when you go there to the airport, be sure you go and pick up this or that, in a bank or do something like that. It was fantastic. But all these things have changed now to such an extent, it's just unbelievable. Technology is even, I have an article in where it talks about decrease of crime. This is The Economist, July 20th, 2013. Let me read just a few sentences. Well, let's go down here. Cherished social theories have been discarded. Conservatives who insisted that the decline of the traditional nuclear family and growing ethnic diversity would unleash an unstoppable crime wave have been proved wrong. Young people are increasingly likely to have been brought up by one parent and to have played a lot of computer games. Yet they are far better behaved than previous generations. Left-wingers who argued that crime could never be curbed unless inequality was reduced also look silly today. Why? Because technology is taken over, and technology is making it impossible to commit crimes. It's, who has money today? Very few people. They have credit cards. Why don't they break into a burglary? It has gone down drastically. Why? Because there's nothing to steal. Sometimes my wife Ruth will say, did you lock the door? So if I didn't, what are they going to get there? Tear out the old carpet, which is 40 years old? I mean, what can they take? Take out the stove. There's nothing to steal anymore. Our vehicles are very difficult to steal now. It used to be very easy. Today it's difficult. So everything is security, more and more. And as it progresses, it becomes impossible. And I tell you that the time will come when crime will almost be eliminated. And then mankind will say, we have achieved this type of prosperity. We have achieved the type of security. We have achieved these things. And the more, as you see, you read the newspaper or listen to the radio or television, listen to the news media, they're pushing God out more and more. I mean, they want to be independent of God. Totally independent. Man is making his own God. He is beginning to worship himself. Ye shall hear of wars and rumors of wars. Yeah, well, we have seen it. But I believe that the time is approaching where the end is coming. Because in the European world, it is virtually all but impossible to think war would occur. I mean, why would France attack England? Or why would Holland attack Belgium? Or why would United States attack Canada? It's out of the question. It's all over. Why? Because they are integrated to such an extent that they depend on each other. I mean, the generous, benevolent Chinese communists for the United States, they don't do that because they love Americans. They do that for self-preservation too, because they can sell all those gadgets. Americans buy anything. As long as on television and well advertised, they buy. That's why, I saw a comic strip where two Chinese, they were producing and something in a factory, and one said, yeah, well, what is it? Doesn't matter, just make it and Americans will buy it. So they don't do that, and they depend on the United States as much as the United States depends on China. And Europe depends on America as much as America depends on Europe. And so everything depends on each other. So when this little tiny economy makes up only 2% of the European community, Greece, when they went bankrupt, that shook the whole world. It really shattered the world's biggest economy, the European Union. And America noticed it too. All over the world. Each one is independent on the other. It's like a chain reaction. And therefore we are forced to live in peace one with another. Our pocketbook dictates that. Woe unto those people who are not participant in the global economy. They lose out. Well, we see it with like North Korea, for example. They're not doing too good. And now Iran is forced, more or less, we don't know how far it's going to go. I'm not going to speculate, it's not my business. But we are seeing they're starting to talk to each other now. Because it hurts to have an embargo placed against one country and be excluded from the family of nations. Everybody wants to be in. Everybody wants to belong to it. And that's the great danger. When that happens, you know what's happened then? When you are united, when the world is united, they do exactly the same thing as they did during the building of the Tower of Babel. Then they turn against God. Because when we have no enemy, then there's only one enemy left, and that's God. And we turn against God. That's what it says actually in Psalm 2. I've read it often. And it's interesting when you read it, how the nations of the world, this is not all people. Just don't believe about those people who say we are exempt. Psalm 2, why do the heathens, the nations, the countries, why do they rage? And the people imagine a vain thing. Why? It's a question. The kings of the earth, or the presidents, the prime ministers, the chancellors, the dictators, set themselves, and the rulers take counsel together against the Lord and against his anointed. That's the purpose. Now, we all know that none of the government heads of the government in any country, they say we're going to fight against the Lord, because you can't fight against the Lord. Where is he? You know, he is not a earthly physical identity. And a military force can only fight against a earthly physical identity. But they are fighting now against, and what are they fighting for? Here it says, Verse 3, let us break their bands asunder and cast away their cords from us. What is it? And I think that's where Israel comes into the play. Because Israel is still God's people in spite of the fact that they are just as pagan as we are. That they are just as irreligious as we are. I mean, as not here our group of people, I'm talking about the entire world. But they are the recipient of the written law of God. And they are the ones who go all over the world today and checking out anyone who had any history of anti-Semitism. And they're pointing the finger to those people. They're doing a marvelous job. And that's what the world after a while does not like anymore. Now I'm going to talk about that in tomorrow, Israel and prophecy. But that's all in the process today. Slowly and surely we are approaching the time where we as believers come under the category where Jesus says, if the times be not shortened, no flesh shall be saved. Now I realize this talks not about Christians, this talks about people in the flesh. Okay? That's something different because there will be destruction. But we notice that more and more the church is being infiltrated by strange spirits. So long as it's sensational, so long as it seems supernatural, the church is swallowing it line, hook, and sinker. And the devil knows exactly what he wants to do. That's why he is harvesting all those souls. And that's why he is opposing us. Not Christianity. He is not opposing Christianity. He is right in the midst of Christianity. That's why I am not very scared of the Islamists. Because they're just poor, silly people, you know. I mean, what can they do? You remember how much they screamed in the world press, we're going to do this, and we're going to do that, and we're going to blow up your country. You can't do nothing. You don't have nothing. They can't nothing. The danger is the intelligence. When they turn against you, that's a different story. But most of those Arabs, they unfortunately have a very low education. And during the Iraq war, it was revealed that over 50% were illiterate. Oh, there's no danger. They just want to jump up and down for a while, and then they're all over. The progress of European civilization and European democracy is spreading all over the world and will win. And the system of financial system that's been integrated today, which is, of course, the financial system, and Wilfried Hahn will talk about it, and he has a lot of knowledge on that system. It's such a phony system, you know. I mean, you borrow money from yourself. Can you do that? Hey, Arno, I'm broke. Hey, Arno, can you give me some money? Wait a minute, how does that work? You borrow money from yourself. But that's actually how the entire so-called free world capitalistic system is built upon. It's as phony as a $3 bill. And then when it comes down, and we know from Revelation 18, when it comes down to the end, what is happening? Is there destruction? Is there nuclear bombs? Are there plane attacks? No. They cry because they lost everything. The whole system, built up by the nations of the world, will one day totally collapse. Amen. Absolutely collapse. So all that money you have and all that investment you have won't do you any good. It's going to be, it's gone. If you're still here. But if you're a child of God, then it's the wonderful news is the best is yet to come. Now, let me just... I've got still 10 minutes. No, I've got 5 minutes. All right. So the good old days, back to the good old days. Here, I have an article here. Often we are being told about the good old days, but when facts and figures are compared, we have to admit that our time is more peaceful, more prosperous, and more secure than ever before. I remember even when we were as children, we were 10 children, and we were singing hymns, church hymns. And the prayer was, God, protect us from fire, from flood, from famine, and from war. War was the normal state of all of humanity. I mean, even here in the United States, a new country, we were killing the Indians by the thousands, maybe millions, nobody knows, to read Indian history. And then after we got just enough food on the table, guess what we did then? We killed each other, the North and the South. And, we were surprised when we came from Ohio in 1978, the story about the Civil War is totally different from the Southern perspective than from the Northern. Why did they do that? Because they are children of Cain, who killed his brother Abel. That's it. That's very simple as that. So, this may shock you, but the truth is, just compare the living condition and quality. It was 200 years ago. People worked their finger to the bones just to put enough food on the table and clothes on the back and a roof on the head. They worked 12 hours and 60 days a week. According to U.S. Census record, life expectancy, listen to it, life expectancy in 1796 was 24 years. I guess they're lying here, but that's what I wrote down from the internet. 100 years later, it doubled to 48 years. Google writes the following: 100 years ago, a male child born in 1903 had the life expectancy of 49 years. Can you imagine the suffering, the misery, the death prevailing on a daily basis? We always, oh no, the old days was so glorious. Well, you can have the old days. Give me 2013 anytime. Life expectancy, 50 years ago, a male child born in 1953 had the life expectancy of 66. Oh, they're getting older. Wonder why. A male born in 2001 can be expected to live 78 years. What is the reason? The reason is peace, comfort, prosperity, security. Medical science contributed significantly, so does food production, as well as mechanizing the industrial world to avoid back-breaking and physical pain, physical labor. This is what just in a very short time has everything changed. Can you imagine? With 50 years, I remember when my mother or grandmother, they were 60, 70. I mean, my mother, exceptional. She lived till 100 years old, 100 old and 10 months, and her secret was don't take any medicine. Don't take any medicine. I mean, please do take your medicine. Don't, But that's what she did. I mean, she had I think it was 260 over 180 blood pressure. And, and they tried to feed him medicine. And, I wouldn't give a glass of water. And Mom knew somehow, she knew it, would drink the water and everything. Then later on, you would see the tablet there on the floor. She did everything wrong. I mean, fat is good, she says. You put a piece of meat and there wasn't an inch of fat on it, she wouldn't eat it. She would eat that fat too. What about human rights? Oh my, I can't even begin to talk about human rights. I mean, just your ladies, would you like to live in the 1800s? Here's what the National Women's History Museum says, quote, in the early 1800s, women were second-class citizens. Are you second-class citizens? No, we've got to do what the women tell us now. Women were expected to restrict their sphere of interest to the home and family. Women were not encouraged to obtain a real education or pursue a professional career. After marriage, now listen to that, women did not have the right to own their own properties in the United States. Ooh, human rights. They were not allowed to keep their own wages if they worked, or sign a contract that was illegal. In addition, of course, all women were denied the right to vote. You want the good old days? You want me to tell you more about the good old days? I don't think you want to hear anymore. We are living in a time, it's fantastic on the one side, but extremely dangerous on the other side. And that one danger can be described with one single word: deception. 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 Don't think that you on your own merits can earn heaven or can earn any favor with God. We can't. What we need to do is permit the Spirit of grace to fill our hearts to such an extent that we totally surrender to Jesus on the daily basis. On the daily basis. The day I live is a day of grace only. But when my task is finished, then they're going to put me in that coffin and put me in the ground if the Lord doesn't come. We already made our reservation in heaven. Yes, of course, that is reserved for eternity. But on earth here, yeah, we have here in South Carolina a green burial. They bury you for, what is it, $400 a coffin, $300 to pick up the body, $800 to put the hole there and dig it back. So it's $1,300. I already paid for it. So it's easy. Why should I give the funeral director so much money? Oh, friends, we live in a great time. And especially now as we see the nation of Israel arising and the whole world oppose Israel. Don't believe that America is a friend of Israel. That's just wishful thinking. If America is a friend of Israel, then the Bible is wrong. Because the Bible says all are the enemies. The Bible makes it clear. Let's see, Isaiah 40 real quickly. The Bible makes it clear that we are it talks about all the nations. It's in my Bible, I know it is. Yeah, here, 40. Isaiah 40, verse 17. You want to know how great your nation is and how great Switzerland is, the beautiful nation, and all those other nations? All nations. Oh, it says all. All nations before him are nothing. Wow, that's not good enough. And they are counted to him less than nothing and vanity. That's what God thinks about the nations of the world. And blessed is he who comes to the freedom through Jesus Christ and experience real freedom. The peace which he giveth, not as the world gives. And that peace passeth all understanding. When we have that peace, we can rejoice forevermore. We can look forward to the time when we depart from planet Earth. And it is my prayer that you will understand this even more, that the Spirit of God has placed it into your heart, that our time is temporary, and our real address, not the fake address here, not the fake citizenship we have. It's fake, you know. Not that, it's just temporarily. We have a citizenship in heaven, and we have an eternal residence. And that should make us smile 24 hours a day. So people say, what's wrong with you? Well, I'm getting older and I'm closer to my coffin. What? Yeah. I actually told them that the people in the bank, and, oh, what's wrong with you? Yeah. There is no future here on planet Earth. Thank you for listening. God bless you.